Call the meeting of the Redevelopment Commission in order. We got a new one over to our right. Ronnie's over there manning the command center. Start off with the call to order. Paul Buning.
Here.
Brian Duffy. Richard Works.
Here.
Bob Euchin's here. Keith Fox.
Here.
Danny Vaught here. We have a quorum, and we'll go ahead and get started with the approval of the minutes of the meeting that was held on April the 18th, 2017.
I had one question about them, didn't have the date. On page 30, this last paragraph, it says that I summarize that approval of the purchase agreement is under consideration. It's a specific shit to be looked at. That doesn't sound like a comment from me. That sounds like a comment from someone who's working on it. I just asked whoever checked this, if that's what I said, fine, if there's someone else. who's correct.
I can double check that.
That's fine, that's all I'm asking.
Sure.
With that, I move to approve.
Second. All right, have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Old business, we have none on the agenda. Under new business, we'll start off with resolution 2017-19. This is for the design work with Crossroads for Brookhaven Drive. And so, Brent, report. Yeah.
Morning, Trent report with Crossroad Engineers. This is for design work for the extension of Brookhaven Drive from where it dead ends currently in the neighborhood and then going due west on that same alignment until it hits Commerce. So we were asked to provide that proposal for design, and I'm not sure as far as the construction timing, it might be something that would be potentially next year, but this would be the first step getting that in on.
Everybody understand what this is about?
Last number.
There was a construction estimate attached to your agenda last month as well.
It's a pretty early construction estimate, so we would hope it's conservative, but it was something that Mark Richards requested to see, just so we kind of had a total budget in mind.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 27-19. Make a motion to read by title.
Second by Fox. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. So we'll conduct a public hearing on this. Being no comments, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2017-19.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Those in favor of approval of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved.
Thank you. We'll get started.
Okay. Next item is resolution 2017-20, $50,000 for Aishin, thank you, holding stock improvement. Again, we saw this last month. I don't know if there's anybody here representing them.
Mac McDonald was not able to be here today. He was out of town, but.
Maybe a quick overview of what this is.
Right, so they were adding 7 loading docks to increase their capacity at their facility. Franklin Tech Park is the actual owner of the building, and they lease the property, and they've been the tenant there since the building was built. They do have some plans for future expansion at this location, which we kind of went over with them when we met. But this would help them towards the cost of the truck dock expansion that they have underway.
Okay. Well, same before here, what we need is a resolution to read by title only.
Also, since I've given this more thought, and I think this is really an example of rehabbing a commercial building, I would propose that we use the Franklin Development Corporation position as a conduit. We could go ahead and pass this resolution and have the public hearing, but then I would follow up next month with a grant agreement and vote him in a development agreement with the developer.
Any questions, concerns, thoughts about that? Okay, then I think where we're at on this one again is we've got Mac here, okay. We just read your resolution.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Krista gave a pretty good overview of it. I think we're good on everything at this point, so.
Do you have anything you'd like to add, or?
Well, Mr. Fan is here, who is the logistics manager, and it will greatly aid in expanding the 20% additional business, approximately 4 to 5 permanent new employees. And we'll position the building, what I've mentioned to the mayor, is Ishan is considering expanding the building itself the next 2 to 2.5 years, and I think this will be a great catalyst to what go ahead and do and show Ishan that they can take on more business and expand here in Franklin. So that's probably the big incentive here, is to show the larger picture that Franklin can provide the employees and ways to expand the building itself.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So much.
Yes. So we're looking for a motion to read by title only at this point.
I'll make that motion. Read by title only, I'm sorry.
Okay, a second by BJ. Okay, any discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And so now we'll have a public hearing on this request. We were moving along pretty quickly this
I
morning.
was going to say, I admire your, thank you for allowing us to come here and speak.
And we just discussed, Rob had mentioned before you came in, that this will likely be a grant to the Franklin Development Corporation. So those invoices for work would still come through me and be processed, but the checks would actually come from the Franklin Development Corporation. And so that, I think we had emailed some yesterday, and that agreement will be ratified at our next meeting.
Any other comments? If not, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the resolution.
Move to approve resolution 2017-20.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, second by Muni, first by Fox, motion by Fox. Any discussion? Those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Resolution approved. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate your support.
Appreciate your being here. Okay. Item under new business, Krista will give us an update on the item C, which is the Depot and Crowell Street improvements.
Yes, this was brought up at your last meeting, and we had gone ahead and prepared a resolution and advertised it. In the meantime, this project had gone through the Board of Works for the actual contract, and they had agreed at that time to also cover the cost of construction instead of requesting that funding from the RDC. And so I wanted to put it on your agenda so that you would know this project is still continuing, but that the RDC is no longer being asked to pay for this project. So that will be 100% a Board of Works project at this time.
Thank you, Krista. Item D, Resolution 2017-22, $96,000 for design services with Crossroads Engineers for Shell Building Access Design Project, also known as Linville Way. Trent has made it already up there.
Yes, so Trent Newport, Crossroad Engineers, this project is a project that goes east off of Graham. It's on the south side of your Shell Building project. Goes east and then curves around, turns south, and then will connect to Commerce. Basically would allow for the rest of that property to develop with industrial projects. And so we put together a proposal for the design of it, which again is the first step. We also did provide a early cost estimate to you. It should be in your packet as well. Again, that's very early without any design work, but it is kind of gives you a budget for what the project would be to build it. which I assume would be the next step. Schedule on this one is a little more aggressive than the Brookhaven project, in that I believe that it kind of follows the schedule of the Shell building, which is to start construction this summer, maybe mid to late summer, and then potentially be completed by the end of the year. And I do know that maybe Krista can talk about, there's some other grant monies that's being sought after as well in conjunction with this area.
That's actually Dana's working on the grant application through the state. That we're making an application that's tied to not only the Shell building, but the other lots that would be created through this project. And Dana, if you'd like to add anything, feel free to do so. But the intent is to get half of this construction paid for through that grant through the state.
Let me come here.
Sure, please.
I think the intent is to, when we construct this, to go ahead and construct it in its full nature. I mean, we're not going to, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right now I am working with the IEDC for the Industrial Development Grant Funds for this. They will pay up to 50% of that. And it is dependent upon the buildings completed, the jobs that are projected in the project. So it does need to be tied to one of these or one or more potential projects opened up in that area. So that is continuing. I've been in discussion with them and they're aware of it. We're just trying to get the final logistics, to get the companies to determine who's going to be where and those types of things. But that is continuing.
Okay.
So Dana, if we receive that grant, is that going to be technically a reimbursement?
It is a reimbursement.
Okay.
Yes.
So we need to fund everything.
Yes, it is completely reimbursed.
Okay.
Towards
The construction,
the construction.
not the design fees,
Construction,
but
yes.
just the construction. So we have to have the project designed so that
Right.
I can submit it.
By the way, if I seem a little nervous today, I think Krista's having some technical issues, and I'm not quite sure what direction she's going to throw her computer in a minute. So,
Wow.
Alrighty then.
anyway, what we need is, once again on this one, at least I sense you're struggling with that a little bit. Bam, bam, bam. Resolution to read by title only.
I move to read Resolution 2017-22 by title only.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. We'll have a public hearing. I think the design on this also is, I know I had the privilege of sitting in on a meeting regarding this. It'll be done with sidewalks, street lighting, landscaping.
Yes. Yeah, I think that was the direction that was given, that it would have sidewalks for, I believe it was sidewalks, but yeah, so kind of a complete street kind of project. It will also take into account, detention. So in other words, we will design the road with conjunction with the designer of the Shell building to make sure that we're draining to the ponds and so forth, and providing detention for the roadway, as well as setting up the system so that for future development it all works.
Yeah, so not only are we staying with the city guidelines, but that will enhance possibly the marketability of the other ground.
It certainly will, yes.
So.
And then there's going to be a trail project along Commerce here, Commerce Drive on the north and east side, so that would connect into that as well.
Okay.
That's your existing trail project that's just starting construction, that goes all along the bypass, and it is on that side. So we'll coordinate efforts with that as well, as far as that entrance off of Commerce.
So that'll open that back 40 acres up for development with the construction of the road.
Anything else from the public? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion for approval of the resolution.
I move to approve Resolution 2017-22.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Okay, thanks Trent. And up now is a request to assist the city in the purchase of a fire truck. So we have our mayor and our fire chief with us today.
Good morning, gentlemen. We do have kind of a unique request today. The city is in the process of buying a new fire truck, which is about $740,000, and we're asking a request of $200,000 to help with it out of the, Rob, tell me, Krista, which fund? That's the capital
Capital fund.
fund, the same we use for Chromebooks, the schools. Just so you know that last night, out of the rainy day fund, we approved $314,000. And then in our CCD fund, capital community development fund, we're going to take $200,000. And our fire medic fund, $19,540. So that's how we come up with the money we need. We do know it's a unique situation. And just let you know that it seems like we're always here asking for money from the RBC. We're also this year doing $1 million worth of paving. We're doing $500,000 worth of alleys, so we do have a lot of stuff going on. And if you have any questions, I have Chief Dan Maculay with me. So if you have any questions on the fire truck, he can answer them for you.
Any questions of the mayor or the chief? Well, if there's not, we can move with this. Need a motion for reading by title only.
Move to read Resolution 2017-23 by title only.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now we'll conduct a public hearing. This is that music land fund, isn't it? Collecting that? Yeah. Okay.
Just for the record, I think there'll be right about $210,000 left, something in that nature
After this.
after this.
After.
Okay. Okay, no comments. I'll declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion for approval of the resolution.
Move to approve Resolution 2017-23.
Second.
Excellent. Okay, any discussion? Those in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Resolution 2017-24, this is awarding a BOT agreement, not to be confused with GOT agreement, but a BOT agreement with respect to a shell building, with respect to the shell building. So I'll ask for anybody that would like to assist in maybe summarizing a meeting that took place yesterday regarding the review of two proposals.
So, are you on F, Chief?
Let's do this one.
Which one?
There's two different items today for the shell building, and so the first one is,
So let's go with F.
let's do the first one.
So with respect to F, Resolution 2017-24, awarding a bond agreement, Greg Mars and Chris Kane from Winnebon are here. If you'll recall, you issued a request for proposals to the global community for proposals for how to build the shell building. And Greg Martz's proposal was accepted by you last week. We've now set it for a public hearing today, and you are in a position to award that, well, to authorize Mr. Hugan and I to negotiate the final terms of the contract. But you would be authorizing the award of that agreement today to Greg Martin on his proposal. So I think maybe it'd be appropriate if Greg gave an overview of what your proposal is, just to remind everybody.
Good morning. I think probably the best thing to do is just to give you just a very quick overview here of the proposal. What we had proposed was a 50,400 square foot shell building. We've done this several times with other communities, and we're happy to talk about that this morning if you'd like. But our proposal was for just under $2.5 million to fully develop that. It includes all the soft costs to design, construct, and also to finance that project. The first 3 years, per the request in the RFP, will be interest-only payments, and then after that, it would go to principal and interest payments. The rate is fixed for 6 years, and obviously, I think that all of us would agree that the building will be sold well before that. So I think that's what the concept of our proposal is a 3-year interest-only period, with the thought that the building will be sold within that first 3 years, but we do have another 3 years backup if not. From a next steps perspective, after this, we'll, if you do approve this morning, we would continue to work with Rob and Barnes and Thornburg and Bob and the bank, and get final negotiated terms. And if I would say, Rob, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on timing here, but I think that we would probably be in a position to close here in approximately 1 month on financing, and I think that we'd be in a position to break ground just a few weeks thereafter. So it would be very quick process.
I agree. I would add to that also that if you approve awarding the agreement today, the proposal involves you pledging TIF money as security for the deal, and that requires city council approval. So we would be going to city council in the next couple weeks to get that approval, and then it would come back to you finally for one last approval. 1st of June, I'm sorry, 3rd week of June. I think June 20th is the date of that meeting, and then we'd be able to close that week, also with Mr. Linville on the property. So it'd be the week of June 20th would be what we're shooting for. This requires a public hearing. Does anybody have any other questions about the resolution?
I'm a little uncomfortable right now. I'm going to say that since you mentioned Bob and the bank, I'm aware that I know we have a representative of our bank that's been talking with you, and I'm also aware that Horizon Bank has also made a proposal. I'm not aware of any selection that's been made at this point, but I will disclose that I am employed for one of the banks that you're talking with. So my understanding is you control who that selection is, and to my knowledge, that has not been done at this point.
No, it has not, because I just didn't want to move forward too quickly until obviously you all had a chance to review the proposal and make a selection.
I just wanted to kind of get.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
get
you
that
very
out there.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to keep an arm's length from that whole process, and I've made my lender aware of that as well. And so that's up to you folks to decide that. So.
Yep,
Okay.
I sure appreciate that. Thank you.
So, given that, I think what we need then is a motion to read by title only, then we'll conduct a public hearing and move ahead. So, we'll do this. We'll have a
One
Yeah.
logistical question. Trent, on the design for the road, sounds like the shuttle building's on a real aggressive plan. I assume you're going to be in a pretty aggressive plan because that really has to be in conjunction with that, because that is our access into that.
Yeah, we actually talked about that in the meeting. I mentioned earlier when we were talking about that it was on an aggressive schedule. The start of construction is probably in the same time frame of this summer.
Okay.
They'll have a construction entrance, they'll be able to get in and out, and we'll just have to work together on, finishing that portion of the road. But again, we'll be building at the same time that they're building.
still looking for a motion to read by title only.
Make a motion to read by title only resolution 2017-24.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Now we will conduct a public hearing. I know Rob, you've spent a lot of time reviewing this in terms of the agreement and so forth, and you've kind of vetted this thing out pretty extensively, so I know you feel pretty comfortable where we are with this today. So. I knew that, but I thought I'd get it out there. Anybody have anything? If not, then we will declare the public hearing closed and ask for a resolution a motion to approve the resolution.
Make a motion to approve resolution 2017-24.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. I apologize. I'm not used to these early hours.
Use the bankers hours?
That's a myth.
The hours are there.
Okay.
You started this.
Okay, now, Rob, thanks for getting me on track here. Now we're talking about the Shell Building Real Estate Services. So,
For the council, we met with Avison Young and Cushman and Wakefield, and have presentations that Crystal will be sending to all of the commission members to review. And after some discussion, we decided that we would take about 60 to 90 days to review the commissions we've received and their proposals, and then try to get back together and come up with a plan to go forward with the services in respect to the Shell Building.
one of the things we talked about also that, even though we may not have, at least initially in a formal engagement of real estate services, we do have the the Johnson County Development Corporation doing what it is they do on this type of.
And Chris also with Franklin.
So I think it just came down to, we'd like to just kind of think about this before we enter into that agreement. I think that's really what it came down to. They were both good proposals.
Just for your information, they are rather thick proposals, so you will be receiving those to review.
Okay. Any questions? Anything else? Richard, thank you very much for that summary. And now we're going to move to the alley project. I'm reading off the agenda from yesterday. I'll go to the computer. Shell Creek Business Incentive.
Thank you, I will do that. So, thank you. This is an introduction for you today. You all received copies of the proposal from Shell Creek. Both of the owners are here, Mike and Jenny Baker. If you have any questions, but they are proposing to do some additional build out and expansion at their facility, and the request that they have is to help cover some of those construction costs to the actual building. It does not include any equipment. So their request is for $12,950 to help with the construction and build out costs. And this would help just solidify their business. And if there's anything that you'd like to add, you're more than welcome to do that at this time.
I think you covered it quite well.
Okay, and then if anyone has any questions.
Anybody have any questions? If they do, then we'll ask Mike and Jenny to come up, or Mike and or Jenny.
Mike, would you come up, or either one of you? I was just going to ask about the food. If this is, part of this is to increase your food menu.
Correct, it will to facilitate opening our kitchen. Right now, our kitchen is not open. It will be voted to get that going and to expand my green area so that we can continue on with our growth that we're seeing right now.
Anybody have any other questions? I think the appropriate way to proceed on this would be to make a motion that we choose to do so, put it on the agenda for a resolution for approval at the next meeting.
I would make a motion to put the request for Shell Creek Brewing on the agenda and advertise.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just wanted to add that the expansion that you're looking at, that's going to be into that area that has been available for lease for some time.
That is correct.
Okay, and so they are physically expanding their footprint.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, anything else? Those in favor of approval of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. You get to come back and see us next month. This one we'll do the formal decision on it, so.
Great.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Rob, do you see that being an agreement again through the FEC? Okay.
Okay, now, alley project.
So,
While she's pulling that up, I want to apologize for appearing to be kind of out of sorts today, but reminds me of a quote of Abraham Lincoln after he had fired one of his generals in the Battle of Chattanooga. He said that his generals appeared to be confused as a duck that had been hit on the head. So that's kind of how I'm feeling this morning for some reason. So if anybody wants to remove me, Mayor, feel free to do so. Some days you're on it, and other days you're not, so.
So the alley project that we're, I'm just going to go with that. It runs east and west between East Court Street and Water Street. And the city's been approached several times by building owners that have property that adjoin this alley. The drainage in this alley is very similar to the situation that we had in the alley between the Art Craft, just south of the Art Craft that ran east and west, and then the alley that ran north and south between next to the new Elks location. And so the request has been, since this is a pedestrian alley, when we redid East Court Street, we closed off that access to East Court Street. So this is a pedestrian alley, and when we have a lot of the festivals and events downtown, this alley is heavily used as a connection between the public parking lot to the east and then East Court Street vendors. And so we did have a building, the building here that was purchased recently, and they're getting ready to make some improvements to that building. They have some issues in the basement with water, and we're hoping that this alley project would help with those issues, but we're also kind of hesitant to make too much of an investment until the alley issue is resolved. And so Mark Richards and the mayor and I have met with them, and we've kind of gone over that. So the request today would be to move forward with the design fees for this alley. Those would actually be paid through the Board of Works and the professional engineering budget that we already have set up. So there's no request for funding today, but just wanted to introduce the project, and also for you to be aware that once this project is designed, there will be a follow-up request for funding through the RDC to actually pay for the cost of this alley reconstruction. And I did do some really rough math based on the project that we did next to the Art Craft and the Elks Alley. That total project cost was $113,549 for the construction, but it was also about double the length of what we're talking about here. So this would be 150 feet versus 290. So based on those construction costs, which were in 2014, the very rough estimate would be around $60,000 for this project. So just to kind of give you an idea of ballpark what we're talking about.
Krista, I've walked down through there. Is there any way as you get into this with the work of fabricating this alleyway into a pedestrian walkway, that they could look at the electric wires above the transformer? I don't know that any of it could be put underground, but there's a possibility that some of it should be addressed at this time, because it is a maze of transformers and wires there.
It definitely is, and the property owners brought that up as well, and so I think as part of that design, all of those options will be explored, and we'll try to do as much as we can to accommodate that. I know that they want to do some outdoor seating in the back, where the parking area is, and so if they feel pretty strongly about that as well, trying to work with that. So I know Trent and Crossroads they have good relationships with Duke and those utility companies, and so they'll investigate that as part of the design process.
Thank you.
I agree 100% with all that.
God, I think that when we did the art craft, maybe we didn't put enough due diligence into getting it underground.
There was a lot of stuff underground anyway.
Yes.
That aircraft project. Okay. Our next step on this then is?
There's no action, I just wanted to introduce it and let you know that the design would be underway, and just kind of give you an overview.
Okay. Thank you, Krista. And so on the agenda is an update on some projects. Is Mark here?
He's not. I believe Trent is the recipient of this agenda item.
I can do half the job, how's that? Trying to report with Crossroad Engineers, I can at least give you an update with some of the projects that we're involved in. The Jeff Street project, the big one, we are, even with the weather we've had, I think we talked last meeting that we opened up that first sub-phase over to Walnut Street a little early, ahead of schedule. They are working feverishly now on the rest of that over to 31. And if you remember, that has a deadline at the end of June. So we've had obviously a lot of rain, but really don't think that it's impacted them too much, and so we expect them to still be on schedule. And no big surprises down in that area so far. So we are working with all the residents who need to get in and out, and there's some businesses on the west end. The poles up at 31, you can see the new poles are all up. There's a couple of the old poles that are still there. Those will be taken down. And basically, once that phase is done, then we're going to move to the phase that will start at Main Street and go to Home. And that's a couple months. And then the last phase for this year is from Home to the tracks. And then at the end of the year, we plan, weather providing, to surface all of that. So it would be basically a completed portion of the job at the end of this year, all the way from 31 to the tracks. And then we start looking to next year. We might have some kind of another public meeting, maybe late in the year, just to kind of get back in front of everybody and you see if there's some interest of people kind of on the east end where it's more residential to come and hear about schedule and details of how things are going to happen for that project in the coming year. And then the other project is actually the county project, which the RDC, I believe, is helping to fund for the bridge. That project has had some weather as well, with the creek being up. So they are a few weeks behind, but the contractor continues to say they think they can catch up. Their completion is in August. And so once they get vertical, really, the weather doesn't impact them too much, and we're close to that. They have the north abutment in the ground, and the two piers are in the ground, and you can kind of see that now. And you can see they've got steel sticking out of those, and they're now working on the south abutment. That should be done and in the ground hopefully within the next 2 weeks, and then we'll start with actually the bridge, the steel deck and everything going forward up there. So again, an August completion, and we hope that they can kind of get back on schedule there. I think that's all that I am aware of. Oh, Wayne Street, sorry, they did some sodding this week. So we now have sod in for the entire project except for right around the building that's being worked on. But that project will get surfaced when they do one of the asphalt phases, probably this one here in June. So that'll be the final coat on it. And basically the street job and the parking lot will then all be done, just waiting for the building to be done.
While you're here, well, I have a captive audience. In July, certainly Jefferson Street in front of the bank is going to be cut off there at Water Street and so forth. Has any thought, maybe this decision has already been made, but has there been any thought, or would the city consider making the area between Madison Street and Jefferson Street there on Water a two-way street in order to allow people to get into the bank lot from Madison Street during the construction phase? I can see a disaster, particularly in the evenings when you have people wanting to use the bank lot, which we have no issue with, but getting access in and out of that. But if it remains one way, people are just going to be violating the traffic ordinance probably, or coming backward through that alley. So it's going to be a mess, but maybe just throwing it out there for consideration, making that two-way during that time.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we did that kind of on Jackson as well, and I think we had talked about that. I just don't think we've talked about it recently, but it's something we talked about on those two streets. It probably would function only two-way down to the alley.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
I do think we talked about that. I can go back and just double check that we don't need to restrict any parking, to make sure it's wide enough for that, so
You board
double
works
check
guys
that.
kind of know what the issue is there. Okay.
So yeah, I definitely think that was in our plan, and we have some temporary signage to show that, and we will come to these meetings and announce it when we get to that point, so that would be in July.
Anything else of Trent? I think while we're on project updates, thanks. I think that I will say that seeing David Bedwell here today, that the Frechette project still is moving. I think
It's in design.
in design right now, so I think Neil Dixon has that, and so it still has a pulse. So I don't know what to say. Anything else that we've got working on? Okay, before we move to the financial reports. Given that, we'll move to the financial reports.
Okay, you have your April financial report, shows our estimated tax revenues are for May, interest earned on deposits through the end of April, $22,385. I have all the resolutions on here that were approved at your last meeting. I will add those that were approved today for your next financial report. If all of these expenditures were made through the end of this year, which a lot of these projects will carry over into next year, but if they were all made, what's been approved at the end of April, our estimated cash balance at the end of the year is $6,260,000. Are there any questions on the financial report?
I have one question. The urban air parking lot, do you know when that's gonna start?
I know that they're in there working now. They have permits. I would expect that to be within the next couple of months or so. I know they wanted to be open this summer.
The parking lot?
Yes.
Krista, what's the difference in the May estimate property tax in November? It's $525,000 less.
Those are the estimates based on the tax receipts that we actually received from last year. And so Jeff Peters had done some analysis into that and found that there were a couple assessments that were being questioned or asking them to be reassessed, and so those payments hadn't been made. And so that was the issue with those receipts being lower, but hopefully we'll see that resolved and we'll receive those this year for those that were not, because our receipts last year were not as high as we had expected because of that.
Okay.
Okay. And then you have your bond, your TIP bond financial report. So this shows all of the projects that have been approved specifically through the bond. I did add the Paris Drive Hotel project to this, so I took that out of the number 16, the interchange economic development plan. That's been reduced because of number 17 for the $560,000 for the hotel project. And so Total bond funds that have been spent to date are the $10,928,000. So that leaves a balance remaining unencumbered is the $435,000. It's a little misleading just because those two numbers that are bold in green, those have also not been appropriated through a resolution either. So those have just kind of been earmarked at this point for projects. So, are there any questions on the bond report?
What's our deadline on spending that? I think that's last night.
July.
June 30th of next year,
Next year.
on or about June 30th, give or take. Yeah. Okay, any other questions on that? One last report.
The last report is the cash flow analysis. This shows all the projects that were under consideration for today at the bottom. It also shows the estimates for tax receipts based on Jeff Peters' projections that we had received, and so this is a little more accurate of what our fund balances would be based on the timing of when these projects will actually be paid for. So this shows our projected total funds at the end of the year at $7.5 million, and that's basically due to those projects being carried over into next year and not being all paid for this year. So,
Anybody have any questions?
questions on this one?
What you see up there?
I know it's really hard. There are printed copies for the audience.
I say that to remind everybody, we do have printed copies.
And then also I wanted to remind you that this cash flow analysis does not have any of the TIF bond projects listed on it, but it does have the yearly TIF bond payments on it. So that is figured into the cash flow, but the actual projects being paid out of the TIF bond are not listed on here.
Thank you. We now move to the public comment and announcement phase of the meeting. Are there any public comments or announcements? I know we have some people here. Chris, I know you've got some stuff to talk about.
The farmer's market opened this past Saturday. It was a beautiful day, and it's open until September 2nd, so 8 to noon, come out to the farmer's market. Next Friday is Strawberries on the Square. Starts at 11, so we're sold out. And Snake Handlers go on at 7. Oh, the day before that, we have the Colts Fan Fest. So we have 2 Colts players and 4 cheerleaders and blue, and their entourage will be out on East Court Street and the courthouse lawn. So come out for that. That's kind of fun. We were chosen, so they picked our town to come here and hang out. So those are. Then we have a few more coming up in June.
Start getting amped up, isn't it?
Yeah, so next Thursday and Friday, I have plans for you.
Okay, very good. Dana, anything back here with JCDC? I know you're busy.
Yeah, we're very busy.
Okay. All right. Les, any progress on bringing the GOT World Headquarters to Franklin, Tennessee?
No, but GOT member Frank Dean wrote, and he and I recorded this theme song for a new reality series called Game Train, which will be streaming on Amazon later this summer. And we've offered through GOT Protection Services to provide security for the mayor against truck drivers. Sorry you asked, aren't you?
Okay, who am I missing here? Okay, RDC members, I think you'll want to hang around. We've got a little walk we're going to do. And if there's no other business, we're done. Thanks.